Guys, what up? It's Wayne. Bringing this little video I mentioned earlier about trading a proper setup, right? What's a good quality setup? What are we looking for in a trade, right? So think of trading as fishing, right? We throw out the lure, we wait for the setup to come to us. We don't chase it because 9 times out of 10 we're gonna end up fucking up and not catching any fish, right? So basically, I'll walk you through what were some of the good setups on the SPY today. I'll show you what a bad setup was, one that I took. That's about it. We'll get rocking and rolling and be a little short video to show you guys what I'm looking for. So we'll start off on the 15-minute for the previous day, right? So this is going to be Friday's action. What we're going to do is we're going to find our rejection points and bounce points for the day. Me personally, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use my algo to do that. And we'll draw our lines, right? So we got a rejection point here. We have some hold, some support here, and we had a rejection at the end of the day. And finally, we get a bounce right here, right? So these are going to be our levels that we're looking at for today, essentially, right? So we'll forward, 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 forward. And what I want to do is, too, I want to show you guys. So obviously, those previous day levels are awesome, right? But we also want to take into account pre-market levels and what a pre-market level is doing. So specifically, the pre-market level that I am interested on is our Scout Wick buddies over here, right? So obviously we have a rejection point here, so we want to mark that level down, and we want to mark this level down. Reason for these are there's some interest here from the dark pools, right? So institutional buying is selling this resistance right here, and they're buying this support right here. So these are levels that we also want to look at. For sake, I will turn this off. I'll turn my EMAs back on, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So as the day progresses, here we go. We have the open candle, right? So first things first, we are gapped above where we closed on Friday, but technically we're not bullish until right around here. And the reason for that is this was the high of day on Friday, right? Even though it was a wick, that's what it tapped Friday. So bullish would be above here. If we're using our pre-market levels, bullish would be above this level here, right? So in between the zone, you can kind of take the trade. Me personally, I would have leaned a bit bearish just due to 5 minutes before the open, we broke down from the EMAs, which are my purple and yellow lines. And we broke down from the 50 moving average, which is this bright pink line over here, and then the 200s down there. So obviously the first play of the day would have been going short. You would have took puts and rode them down to the nearest support. As you can see, the level from Friday bounces lovely. We got a little tweezer bottom here, so if you weren't too confident on exiting puts and taking calls here, this definitely should have convinced you. So we got a tweezer bottom that starts skyrocketing up, right? Then we get this tweezer top up here. It rejects at this zone here, but again, we didn't really look at this. We didn't look at this zone because we were concentrated on the wicks. However, taking calls on this bounce, once you would have seen it tweezer topped, you should have exited. And realistically, you could switch back down to puts and ride it back down to the support. As you can see, we breached that support. Then we wick out, and here we create a little morning star, right? So we get a bearish candle, a big indecision doji, and then we start rocking and rolling, pumping up. So again, we're on that support, right? So all this action is happening on this support. So you can take calls on this support, exit your puts as it reclaims it. And then we go on our slow choppy uptrend, right? So we go on a slow choppy uptrend. We smack the pre-market rejection level, go back to the 50. We pretend we're going to break the 50, and then the candle ends up closing above. So this should be an indication of strength. It retests the 50 here and doesn't break it and bounces off. This is going to be your indication to take calls, which here is when I called out those XPX calls. Fantastic calls. We start moving up and we go on an uptrend. And where do we start to retreat from? We retreat away a few cents away from that high of day on Friday, right? So we retreat there, and you can see it taps the high of day, fails to hold it, and then for the most part we chopped there all day and we started bouncing between zones up and down. Let me just fast forward to the end of the day. Perfect. So I want to show you guys where the quality setups would have been, right? So fun fact, I made this exact mistake, right? So I saw that the SPY was over here. I took this right around here on my other chart. So I looked at I was feeling some FOMO, right? So I saw that last time we were at this zone, we were kind of bouncing around, and I saw that kind of happening here, and I took calls on this level, and I got immediately smacked down. And the reason for that is that I didn't wait for it to retreat to one of the levels I wanted. So I'll show you my other chart here. It's kind of a mess, but this is going to be my actual day trade chart. Let me turn off all this noise so you guys can just see the action. So this is my day trade chart, right? I took the calls right here for the XPX, those Lotto SPX calls. So I took them here because I was like, oh, it's building support from here. It should hold here and bump up. And we had that dude talking. What I should have waited for was a quality setup, right? And the quality setup would have been a pullback to my level, which I had 394.04 marked as one of my hourly levels. We had a hammer bounce off of that, and we go back to the high of day, right? So that would have been a quality setup, not this. And the reason this isn't a quality setup is this level isn't tested besides right now, right? It got tested here and it got tested here. That's not enough strength. All these other levels that we have marked, we know are tested because we saw the shit perform on the last session, right? So what I'll do is I'm gonna go over quality setups with you guys. So I'll show you quality. So first things first, your first trade of the day, if you're like me, you're gonna take an open trade, right? First thing you should look at is, for me, I'm looking at the EMAs, right? So this is 5 minutes before the SPY is gonna open. We have a break of the EMAs and a break of the 50 moving average. This already tells me it's bearish. So what I'm looking for is, if in the opening candle, if that opening candle can't get above these EMAs, the thing is bearish to me and I'm going to smack puts. And the reason I will smack puts as well is we're pretty high up from a support level. So I know that it's going to retreat as close to the support or at that support as possible. Right? So here's the opening sequence. We get this candle to bum rushes down low here, then works its way back up and tries to get above the 50 and fails. This is going to be your first confirmation to get puts, right? So that's going to be the first quality setup of the day. You're going to take a rejection. I'm going to put this little money sign there. Right? So the very next candle spikes down, hits that support. Easy trade. You can take your profit there. So boom, trade done, take your profit, right? If you want to hold for a little more, you're going to see that it tries to break the support again and fails, starts ripping back up. Exit your puts and take calls. Or if you haven't played anything, your first trade of the day can be calls, right? If you're being patient and you're waiting for a setup, the setup's right there. So you can take it based on this candle. You can take calls, and I'm minimize the check. You can take calls based on tapping that support, not breaking it, tweezer bottoming, rips up, right? Rips up pretty damn high. Obviously, here is having trouble getting above this specific level. You want to take your profits somewhere out here. So let's go back to the check. Take your profits out. Cool. If you want, switch to puts. Ride it back down to the support, which it does, right? So another quality setup. And if you wanted to be a little patient because you don't want to keep flip-flopping in and out, your setup there would have been to wait for the 50 moving average support break. So tweezer tops, goes down to the 50, breaks the 50. As you can see, based on this wick, it can't get back above the 50 moving average. Your entry is right here on this candle, and you ride it down to the nearest support. As we get to that support, we just break down from it completely. So this would have been your take profit somewhere here. If you were holding for a little longer, then your take profit would be on the reclaim of this support level here. So let's just call it another executed trade. Boom. Right? So that's already one trade, 2, 3. And then here, this is a Morningstar trade. So you could have took the Morningstar right under support if you wanted to, but let's say you didn't and it ripped up a little higher. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to chase because it might reject, right? As the day goes on, nothing's really happening. This would be your next setup right here, right? So we get a big red candle that shows we're going to continue going down. It wicks down, so it shows that there's some bear interest there, but it rips back up to the 50. And this candle tests the 50 and holds it, and you can kind of count that as a morning star. So this would be another quality setup. Trades off of the morning star to the next level. In this case, the next level was right above 395. Takes that support, tests it, holds it, and then goes to the higher day. This was our PT up here, so that would have been our exit. Where's my check? I lost the check. We're going to just put it right here. And that's it. So if you want to count quality setups on a SPY today, realistically, it was the opening trade. So I'll just go back, delete all these symbols and go back and just show you the sequences again. And those are basically your quality setups for the day. Playing anything else in between, realistically, your odds are a little lower and you probably would have chopped yourself up. I know I did. So first trade of the day is going to be puts. The reason we are taking puts is that the SPY is under its EMAs. It breaks the 50-day moving average on the 5-minute chart. We wait for what open's going to do. They get pushed down. Bulls try to push it back up. They succeed at pushing it back up, but we get an EMA rejection here and a 50 moving average rejection there. That's the trade. You take puts based on that information and you ride it down to the next level. The next level was 391.23, which we got based on that level actually came from the pre-market wicks. So there you go, right? There was buying interest at this wick here. We can see it happen again. As it tweezes or bottoms and starts ripping back up, you take your profits, don't get shredded. If you weren't in the trade already, you can take this aggressive bounce of support and take calls. Or if you took your profits quick and flip-flop back in, you can take calls as well. So second quality trade is, damn.